Hello everyone. Now I would like to take this opportunity and tell you about my remote module version 3. In this video, the components that we'll be using is a power PMP button. This little button right here is a push button, but for this instance it's going to simulate that. Push it in, key is on, release it, key is off. So key on ignition. We have an ID Janili voice box, ID Janili countdown, and these two boards here will represent what happens for the entire dash. When these are on, the dash is on. These items right here are the Season 1 upper console electronics, also from ID Janili. This version 3 remote module will fit in the upper console of your KITT car, and let me show you a picture of that now. As you can see, it fits pretty well. And with one wire sent from the main module to the remote module, you will actually be able to trigger the electronics in your upper console. Now, I keep saying upper console, but don't let me fool you. This can actually work for your lower console as well. The lower console electronics, the upper console electronics, each could benefit from the use of a remote module. As I stated before, there's a 12-volt signal that is emitted from my version 3 main module. When it is sensed by my remote module here, it will energize the electronics. And what that actually does is, when the countdown is complete and the main dash is on, the upper console, and in fact the lower console, if so wired, will come on simultaneously. No extra toggle switch for the top, no extra toggle switch for the bottom, not needed. So let me hit the power PMP button and show you what it does. And as you can see, the upper console and the dash electronics all came on at the exact same time. Inside the modules is a little red light. When the red light is on, the module is on. Same thing here with the version 3. And also turns off. And as always, it also does operate from a key ignition. You get where you got to go, you take the key out, everything turns off, including the upper console and the dash electronics. My new version 3 main module also has the opportunity of utilizing a key fob again. And as you can see, the remote module did activate the upper console as well. So that's how this thing works. Now let me tell you how to install it. Inside this remote module is two jumpers, jumper 1 and jumper 2. Jumper 1 allows for you to select from either a negative or a positive source. Even though this is working with my module 3, it can work with anything that emits a 12-volt or a ground signal. The second jumper wire is either set for a toggle or a latching. Now, for this particular instance, when use with the main module, you want to be able to set it to a toggle and set it for a 12-volt trigger. The latching allows for you to use a simple toggle switch, a push button, anywhere inside your KITT car, and it will latch through its latching circuit and stay on until you hit the button again to turn it off. So again, you don't have to have a main module to turn this on. In fact, you don't even have to use this with Knight Rider electronics whatsoever. If you have a push button and you want to energize some electronics, anything, that a car stereo, neon lights underneath your car, LED fog lights, I don't care what it is, as long as it doesn't exceed 10 amps of current, you can utilize this module. Now let me demonstrate that for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect it from the main module here, and I'm going to utilize it solely by itself. Now I'm going to leave the electronics hooked up as representation of when it's on and when it's off. Now what I went ahead and did is I utilized the same button that before was simulating key on ignition for the dash electronics in the main module, and now I'm just utilizing it only for the sole purpose of sending a 12-volt pulse signal to the latching circuit to energize. I also had to change the jumper over from toggle to latching. And as I said, because this was my key on 12 volt ignition, I'm leaving it in the 12 volt trigger section. See what happens. Bigger. It's on. Hit it again. It's off. So again, if you have a push button inside your car, it doesn't even have to be a Night Rider car. If you have a push button inside your car and you want it to become, hit the button, it's on. Hit the button, it's off. This will do it for you. And like I said, as long as it doesn't exceed over 10 amps of current draw, you can power whatever you want from this main module. Built-in fuses in here for the 10 amps that'll come out, and there's little 2 amp fuses for the internal circuitry of the module itself. Key components are removable, so in case something does become damaged from miswiring, instead of sending this to me for a repair, I can just send you out the components, and they plug in, plug out. Try to make everything easy for everybody. And like I said, if you're going to use a push button, and you got the one wire hooked up to common, and the other wire goes to here, you want it then on a ground trigger. But this one here is power in order for that to work. So let's go over what this is. So all the way over to the left, that's your 12 volt in. The second screw terminal here will be your car ground, 12 volt ground, or ground negative. This one here is your actual trigger input wire. And again, that input, if whatever you're telling it, whatever you're sending to it, either a negative or positive, you also have to select the jumper 1 in its proper spot. Instructions for both jumper 1 and 2 are actually on the circuit board, as well as instructions for wiring is actually printed on the circuit board as well for each terminal. Let me show you what that looks like. As you can see, I got wording to identify what each terminal is for. This far terminal all the way out here will send a 12 volt power out when this is active. So right now, this far screw all the way over here on the right is actually emitting 12 volts while this is on. And when I turn everything off, it's emitting nothing. So if you wanted to hook up yet another remote module, either because you need to have additional power of 10 amps, or because, as I stated before, an upper console, lower console scenario, you can do it right from here. And again, all comes off of one wire. So that's how this is easily controlled. That's how it's easily hooked up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Inside the video description, I will note contact information here through Facebook. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you for watching.